Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I am going to show you how to paint skies with watercolor. So I'm going to show you how to make 4 of them using very beginner friendly techniques. So if you've never done watercolor, you're probably going to be able to do these. We'll go through a daylight sky with clouds, a sunset, a night sky, and of course a galaxy because that's my specialty. You won't need anything special other than the usual paint, paper, brush, maybe paper towel. But yeah, so if that's something that you're interested in, let's just start. I'm so excited. Okay, so unfortunately I ran out of washi tape because in the usual I just, separate my paper with washi tape to make very nice and clean squares. And I ran out of washi tape and it's Sunday, so I just decided to go with my pencil and did some nice squares. For today I am using 100% cotton paper. You can use whatever paper you have. Just keep in mind that cotton paper will stay wet a bit longer, which makes it a bit easier to work on certain effects. But with the skies, as we're going to do today, it shouldn't matter that much. I'm gonna start by activating my paint. I'm going to use a little spray. There we go. As far as for brushes, I will be using a big flat brush. That is the one I received in the scroll box, and I'll be using this just to wet the paper, and then I'll be using some classical round brush. Nothing too crazy. Okay, so we'll start with the top left painting, and this one will be a very simple daylight, I guess we could say, like a very classic blue with cloud skies. So what I'm gonna start with is just wetting the paper. You can put a decent amount on there, just avoid puddles, but other than that you can go on and add water. If you are using cellulose paper, it might become a bit wobbly, like the paper is moving around weird. That's okay, it doesn't matter. There we go. You can go over many times just to be sure there aren't any kind of puddles. And once you think it's enough water, we'll be able to start. So I'll take my round brush. This one is a 14 round, which is quite big. And what we're gonna do, we are going to avoid having a flat wash, which means just one color from top to bottom and it's the same amount of pigment. So I'm gonna start with mixing a bit of my cobalt blue. With a bit of the cyan. There we go. And I'm gonna go straight with this on here and put a bit more pigment on the top, like this. I'm gonna add a bit more cobalt blue because this is a bit too warm to my liking. There we go. And now I'm just gonna take that paint and go down. I'm not adding any more, just cleaning my brush. And I'm taking all that pigment down there so that we have a nice gradient. Just gonna add a little bit more on top. Nice. So I think there's a bit too much pigment on the bottom, so I'm gonna wash my brush. Go on the cloth a little bit to make it a bit drier, and I'm gonna lift a bit of the paint down there, so that the gradient is a bit more gradienty, if that makes sense. There we go. Now, since the paper is still wet, I'm gonna go with a paper towel that I'm going to scrunch, not too hard, because otherwise it's going to make very crisp lines, and that's not what we want for clouds, like this. And we're just going to go around to make our clouds. You don't need to press too hard, just up. What looks nice is if you make bigger clouds on top, and the more you go down, the thinner the clouds are. Gives a very nice perspective effect. So we're going to scrunch a bit more. We're gonna go down here. I'm going to scrunch the paper more so that I can go with a bit more details, especially over here. Make some more smaller clouds. Nice. What do we think? I think they look adorable. Clouds with watercolor are one of the simplest things to do as when it comes to the technique, but making them look very nice and fluffy can be a bit harder, but that's okay. We are here to learn. Just gonna go back with a almost dry brush just to make the clouds a bit fluffier. So now we have our sky with clouds, and once you have your little cloudy sky, we will just let it dry, and then we're gonna just add a little electric ball with birds to make it a bit more interesting. But that's how you make clouds. That's very easy. So just to let this dry, we're gonna go into the sunset sky, and it's gonna be the same thing. We are going to wet the paper. If you're like me and you don't have tape separating both skies, be careful not to put water too close to the sky, otherwise the water will attract the pigments over here, and that's not what we want. For the sunset, we are going to do a sky over some sea, because I think a sunset on the sea is what would look the best. There we go. So we are going to start with a line of yellow in the middle. I'm using this yellow. I don't remember the name of that color, so I don't want to say something wrong. A basic yellow, more on the warmer side. And we are going to make two lines since the sea is going to reflect, right? Just leave a bit of white in between. It'll help to see the difference where the sky starts and where the water starts. Then I'm going to go in with a bit of orange, making my way up and down. Then we'll go with a darker orange. I really have no clue of the names of these oranges and yellows. And this is where you can see the wet and wet technique is doing its job. It's helping the pigments melt into each other. If you see that the yellow is going through that white line, you just go in with a clean brush and leave the paint. That's alright. Then I'm gonna take a bit of a pink color. This is opera pink. Going up and down. And then I'll finish with this purple all the way up there. With sunset, I won't be adding clouds because it's a bit more complicated when it comes to the cloud colors. Just gonna go back with a bit of yellow, going up, orange, pink. Make the colors a bit more vibrant, and purple. Same the other way around. That's a very nice The colors look a bit washed out on camera, but this is a very nice ombre. And we are going to add a bit of details, especially onto the water. So I'm gonna take a clean brush, wet it a little bit, and then I'm just gonna come and add a bit of lines to just give a more streaky effect. And we are going to do that a bit more into the middle here to lift the paint, since that's where the sun is gonna be. There we go. We will go back with white ink anyways to add a bit more details, but for now we're just adding a bit of texture. If you want to add some texture in the sky to represent the sun, you can as well. Just lift some paint looking up and to the sides. There we go. It already shows us that it's a sunset without adding any sun or any detail. Ain't that nice? There we go. Again, we're just going to let this dry. This isn't fully dried yet, so we're gonna move on to the night sky anyways, and we'll be coming back to the other ones later. For the night sky, always same thing. I like to work for skies and landscapes, even though landscapes isn't really one of my specialty, but I like to work wet and wet. It helps having a nice blend. Okay, there we go. We have a nice wet paper. Now I'm gonna go with the same idea in mind as this guy. I don't want to have a flat wash of dark paint. We're gonna go from darker to a bit of a brighter, maybe warmer color. So on top, I'm gonna start with indigo, right here. Such a pretty color. Full on indigo up here. If you want to darken it with black, of course you can. Always remember that watercolor will dry a bit lighter than it looks when it's wet, so you can go no problem with a bit of black. I use black with galaxies, but not really with night skies. I think it's a bit too intense for me. And now I'm gonna add a bit of purple, so we can transition nicely into a warmer color. And now I'm going to add a bit of magenta in there. And I will finish with, seal the brush with this purple color, go into the magenta, and go all the way down. I'm gonna clean my brush and come back to blend these two together. Now I'm gonna clean my brush, dry it a bit on the cloth, and just come back from all the way up here and come back down. And we have a very nice ombre of colors, which I think is a bit prettier than just straight up flat wash. It makes it a bit more interesting. Now, if you want to add a bit of texture to the sky, we will be adding a moon and stars anyways, but if you want to add more interest to your painting, what you can do is take your brush, clean it, dry it on the paper a little bit, and then we'll come back here. We're just gonna protect the other two up there, and we're just going to tap our brush on our finger to let the droplet come down. That is one of the texture technique I show you in the watercolor tips and tricks video. And this is already adding a bit of a starry effect, which I think is very nice. There we go. Now again, we'll be letting this dry, and we're gonna go onto the galaxy side. Same thing as always, we are going to wet the paper. We are going to go with a greenish galaxy since we've used a lot of other colors on the other skies. Also, green galaxies are very pretty because they start with a yellow base, which makes it very, it pops, is what I'm trying to say. Now, galaxies are the only ones of the skies we're doing today. That will be a bit harder to do on cellulose paper, but you should be alright, nevertheless. So, I'm gonna start with this yellow here, which is a lot of a colder yellow than this one. And I'm gonna start using this yellow onto the middle like this. Adding a bit more yellow, drying my brush and lifting a bit of color. Don't be scared to lift color. Even though galaxies are dark, they look a lot better if there's a bit of contrast and not just full on black on paper. Then I'll be taking a bit of my phthalo green and working it around. You can really take the time to mix those colors together. Just clean the brush, go back with yellow, and see this lime green that we're creating is what is making these galaxies pop a lot more. I'm gonna go in with the phthalo green a bit more here. There we go. Cleaning my brush, going back to the yellow, adding a bit more up here, lifting a little bit of color here, and working the yellow and the green here too a little bit. That's pretty nice. And then I'll be taking my indigo, the same as here, and I'll be adding the indigo all around. The indigo and the phthalo green mix beautifully. You'll see those are very pretty together. You don't necessarily have to go into a square like I'm doing right now. I'm just making it like this to make it easier to understand, but you don't have to. And go back to the phthalo green. And then we're going to try to make it more interesting, because just a full-on square, of course, is not what's the most interesting. And try to make shapes. I'm gonna go back here, like that, so that we can have the contrast between the green and the white underneath. Mixing things together, lifting colors. You can't go wrong with galaxies. You just have to listen to your instinct. Then I'm gonna use a bit of a similar technique as we did for the clouds up there, and I'm gonna lift a bit of paint to make more texture and contrast. Galaxies are also a trust the process thing, so don't worry if yours look weird. It won't in the end, trust me. Once we've done that, I'm gonna go back with the indigo, and I'm gonna work a bit of the darker color around this part. And then I'm gonna go all the way to the sides. I'm gonna do the same over here. Cleaning my brush. There we go. I'm gonna take the indigo in general and come back around here, a bit more there to darken everything. Galaxies don't necessarily have to be very dark. That's a preference artists have. I've seen some a lot lighter galaxies that were very pretty as well. I just like mine to be a bit darker. That's purely my preference. I'm gonna go back to the phthalo green. It's a lot of going back, taking a bit of green back, going with darker colors, coming back. Just listen to your artist side is what I would advise. My very first galaxies, I had no idea what I was doing, to be honest. And even now, sometimes I'm like, girl, what are you doing? It makes no sense. But it does. So I'm going back to the yellow. There we go, adding a bit of texture in the middle. My yellow is becoming a bit of a greenish color, so I'm gonna clean my pan. There. Adding pop of colors. See, there is no rules really, you just listen to your artistic side. Every galaxies are beautiful. Everyone's I've been able to see since I've starting watercolor, they've always been beautiful. You can't do an ugly galaxy, that's impossible. Then I'm gonna dry my brush, take a bit of yellow again, dry it again, and just gonna add dry brushing details around here. Okay, I kind of like this. I'm just going to go back to my indigo to get a bit of the dark color back here. So my paper is still somewhat wet right now. It dried fairly quick because it's very hot outside. Not very, but it's hot. That's okay. You can always spray your paper if you need a bit to add a bit of water back. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the phthalo green, mixing it with the indigo a bit more to get a darker color. The only thing I would keep in mind when doing galaxies is that they look better if you can mix very hard edges to other very blended ones, and that is what I feel like make the galaxy beautiful. But to each their own. Honestly, don't stress about it. I'm gonna go back with a bit of the yellow to add a bit in here. If the yellow mixes with the indigo, that's okay. And there we are. Very nice. I like it how it looks now. I personally like to work on galaxies with with multiple layers. I really just do one because I like to make it very dark. But for today, I think that's already a good job. If you're able to get something that you like with just one layer, that is perfect. Also keep in mind that sometimes we want to overwork things, and that's how we make them look bad. So when you feel like it's how you want it, just stop. You can always go back and add more color, but you can't really go back and take them off once it's dry, you know what I mean? So that's where we are with our galaxy and our skies. All of those skies, by the way, can be made with multiple layers, but we're just gonna go with one today because we can do plenty enough like this. So now we are going to work on the sunset. I wanted to add the pole on here, but since I have to let my hand rest on the paper and I have this drying, that's not a good idea. So for the sunset, you can either use gouache, white gouache, or white ink. This is what I'm using. I love this ink. For me, it's the best. And a tiny brush. And what we're gonna do is just add our little sun in here. If you want to follow the lines we did earlier, you can as well. Even though I don't think it's really necessary since they're already very visible. There we go. And we are going to add a bit of details in the ocean here, making our white lines a bit more obvious. Oh, you can also use a white gel pen if you have one, of course. Some little dots. And that's where we are for our sunset. I think it's very simple. Pretty sure everyone can do this. And you can even make some kind of postal card to send to someone with this. That's very cute. If you want, before adding the white details, you could have gone back and make a second layer doing the exact same thing as we did for the first one to make it pop more. But for me, that is good enough. Now we are going to work onto the night sky. So still with our white ink or white gouache, we are going to protect our other paintings like this and like that. We are going to take our brush and either our gouache or ink. I wouldn't advise on using watercolor, a white in watercolor, because it won't be opaque enough. And then what we'll do, there are many techniques. My favorite one is taking another brush and just tapping it to get those stars. Okay. If you want, you can take a smaller brush and add some of them by hand. That is possible, but don't add too many because that's how you make them look a bit unnatural. But you can add some. And we are going to add a moon, of course. Now, I'm gonna go without sketching it, but if you can take the time to sketch your moon, do it, because sometimes they look weird and wonky. Trust me. So I'm just gonna do this. It's so hard because I'm not close enough to my paper. Oh, I'm sorry guys, I'll have to do the moon being like glued to my paper because I can't see what I'm doing. Okay, she's a bit of a thicker moon. That's why I honestly take the time to sketch it so that it doesn't look the way mine does. And that's where we are with the night sky. You can always add some shooting stars if you want. You can add like a droplet of paint, and then with a clean brush you just swoosh, and you swoosh it. Maybe take a bit more paint. This is called pressed paper, that's why it's a bit more textured when I swoosh around. I'm gonna add a second one and swoosh it too. There we go with the night sky. Now we are going to go back to the daylight one and add the pole. So for that, you can use a very thin brush like this, but since it's very hard for me to draw without being this close to my paper, I'll be using a marker today. Just as a security, I'm gonna put that here. And we are going to add our pole here. You can make it straight if you want, but making it a bit wonky like this makes it a bit more interesting. Like this. Nice. Now we are going to draw the cables, which is going to be the hardest part. This part is actually easier with a brush. Let's not think too much about it and go with it. Nice. And the second one here. Ooh, that ain't too bad. Same thing here. That's perfect. And we are going to add two little birds, maybe here. And that's it for the day sky, daylight sky. That is very cute. I love it. And now for the last one, the galaxy, we are going to do the same thing as we did here. So we will protect everything else. Take our white. And add our stars. If you have a huge droplet that fell like I did here, don't stress about it. You just go with a clean brush. Take the paint, and just clean it. There we go. Now we are going to work on the details of the galaxy, which is always my favorite part. So I'm gonna take a bit of white again. And I'm going to add the shine of the stars I will be adding later. So what I do is just I'm adding a bit of white. And then I'm going over with my finger to blend it. It looks weird and funny, but trust me on this one. That works very nicely. I'll be adding one here. One here. Maybe one down there. And the second one. Okay, if you want to add little constellations, that's also the time to do it. Don't add the stars first. You start with doing the lines and then you add the stars. Because trying to go from one star to another is not as easy as it seems. I'm gonna start here. Going down there. Oops. And up here. And now I'm adding the stars. And here. And there. And here. And if you want to be a bit extra like me, you add some stars through the line as well. And I'm gonna add another one. Maybe here? I don't know. Okay, adding the stars. Okay, now we are going to add the stars we did the shine for just before. Oops. There we go. And I'm going to finish with those big stars. I'm gonna do one here. So I'm just adding a dot of white. I'm cleaning my brush and I'm just coming back and taking this paint down and up. If it's dry already, you take just a little bit back. There we are. These stars are the most annoying thing to do. You might be frustrated when you first try to make these and get like real pissed. It's part of the process. They are hard to do. Sometimes you'll be making them like it's the most beautiful thing ever, and sometimes it's gonna look like crap. It is what it is. If you really don't like it, you can, while you've just done it, go back with a clean brush, clean the thing, go with a paper towel and redo it. Don't stress, okay? But it's part of the process. Then I'm just gonna add more stars over here. Kind of want to add another one of these, maybe right next to it. And maybe just add up 1 or 2 stars. Yeah, I think that's good enough. There we go with our 4 skies. Hi everyone and welcome back. So here we are done with our 4 skies with very beginner friendly techniques. I hope you were able to do all of them and that you had fun learning how to do these. They are very versatile. If you want to do the daylight sky but with pink because you're more into a fantasy idea, you can do that, no problem. Same with the sunset. If you want to go into more of a blue or sunset, you can have fun like in any ways you would like to. If you want a more detailed version of each of these with more advanced technique and how to make them pop more, things like that, you can leave your questions in the comments. I will be making more about galaxies and night skies since they're what I like to do the more and I have the most experience making, as well as some of the sunset with clouds. But I will probably do these with gouache since I'm learning gouache at the moment and I'm feeling very comfortable, which is insane. I just had to try and it worked. That's crazy. But yeah, galaxies will go over like many times with different ways of making them, but for now that's where we have those 4 ones. And if you attempt to make these, you can tag me on TikTok, Instagram, or even Threads. I have Threads as well, so you can tag me over there. I would love to see your creations. It always makes me so happy when you try to recreate something I'm showing you guys. So yeah, I hope this was helpful and I'm going to see you in the next video very soon, and thank you for watching. Bye bye.